So here we are mapping your inner landscape. So first, let's just understand what I mean by inner landscape. And ultimately, it's who you are at the core. It's your essence. It's how you show up in the world at this moment in time. It's kind of an accumulation of condition, but also who you are underneath the surface, who you came into the world as. So it includes everything from values and strengths, aversions, right? Things that we don't like, motivations, emotions, desires, fears, the organization of your psyche. And we'll get a little bit more into that in a little bit. But it's, again, the essence of who you are as defined by both nature and nurture. So, in this session, we're going to look at how we really leverage self-discovery and draft our personalized blueprint. So this is important because it lays the groundwork for everything, right? It's the foundation of how we're going to move forward. It's like, what do I grow my roots into so that as I grow, I can express and, kind of explore these different areas, but always know what I'm grounded into. What is my truth? Who am I in that truth? Who am I as a sovereign person? And how can I continually come back to that and say, yeah, screw you, self-doubt, right? When the self-doubts come up or when the lack of confidence or when, things kind of deter us off our path, we get to come back to this blueprint and remember who we are. So again, in this session, we're going to explore how do we access our values? How do we identify our strengths? How do we understand our unique style? And then how does all of that come into an amalgamation of how we show up in the world or what our blueprint, our very unique blueprint is as we move forward into the next 7 weeks. So let's first start with the most essential, and that is your values. Values are your cherished ideals, what you stand for, what's important to you. And a lot of us have kind of an idea, but sometimes it's kind of ethereal. It's out here. When we really hone in on them, when we write them down, when we come into connection with them, then it gives us some guidelines and a roadmap to move forward. So values can change based on where we are in life. It can be change based on if we're in a relationship, if we have a family, depending on where we live. But at the root of our existence are some very key core values that typically don't change much. But it's a great practice to do at least once, maybe twice a year to really say, okay, are these still my values or is something taking more priority? They're the foundation. They feed the rock. Like they are the rock on which you stand and then move out from there. Okay. So if you haven't done any work on your values, now is a great time. If you maybe have before, now is the time to try it again. So the next component, which we need to really lean on for self-efficacy, for confidence, for sovereignty, is to recognize what are our strengths. And strengths as defined are any attributes, activities, or tasks or skills that you excel in. So certainly you can do a self-reflection of how you've shown up across life, your repetitive, performance, what people have told you, the characteristics that show up and that have gotten you through, certain aspects of your life or how you've excelled in certain areas. So one of the ways I do love to help me understand my own strengths and, really get a perception of how others see me is a practice that I learned from Sarah Robo Hagen, and she was our CEO of my last company, but she called it, I don't even know what she called it, but I call it 50 Shades of Me. And the practice is that you ask 10 people to give you 5 characteristics that they see in you. So then you end up with a list of 50 characteristics that then you can categorize and start to see patterns and similarities of how you show up in these different areas. And it could be neighbors, it could be, significant other, family, friends. And then you have a list of like, wow, this is what people see in me. I didn't even recognize that in myself. And then another element of this inner landscape is what I'm calling personality and beyond. And some of you may have taken personality tests, right? Myers-Briggs back in the day, some of those other hilarious personality tests, but I'm going to offer you some that have been scientifically validated and others that come through wisdom traditions, right? Others that might not be fully scientific, but actually have and are being used in some corporate spaces and in some big spaces. So most of you have heard some of them. You have Myers-Briggs, you have Big Five, you have DISC personality tests, there's emotional intelligence assessments, and you can find these. I'm going to drop a link where you can find a whole list of these, and they're free tests that you can take. It's a website called truity.com, and it has a drop-down list of personality assessments, and it also weaves in some of the other ones that I'm going to talk about. But again, these go through how you're categorized across your personality, how you're categorized as a leader, the different aspects of emotional intelligence. And there's about 10 tests in there that can just help you get a reframe on, oh, okay, that's a pattern that I typically come in at. If I was to lead, under this, personality trait, it's actually not natural. It doesn't naturally come to me. So I can't expect myself to be, just like this other person. I can't expect myself to, dive in a way that doesn't actually resonate with me and isn't a part of who I am naturally. So some of these, however, can be kind of limiting in that it's just a point in time, right? That these personalities evolve over time. And so then they'll be different the next time you take it. So just be mindful that some of them could be like very dependent on how you're showing up in life right now and have a very different result if you take it again, let's say in 7 weeks. So if you're curious about those will be in the portal. I'm going to expose you to two of the assessments that I have found very, very helpful in my path. And I think I did these probably 15 years ago and did them again recently. But the Enneagram is one that now corporations and leadership teams are taking to understand how someone comes into the world based on their motivations, what are their maladaptive behaviors, how do they connect with other people, where do they express themselves healthily, and where do they not, what makes them stressed, so that they can figure out a way to synergize more. So if you haven't been exposed to the Enneagram, that would be a fun one to try. And again, this is all just suggestions and possibilities if it's something that you want to explore. But again, for me, it helped me say, oh yeah, like that's actually my typical mindset. Like I'm a 5, so I intellectualize everything first before I go into the emotional space. So when there's a conflict, I just take it and I analyze it and I say, oh, this is happening before I even get to an emotional space, which is kind of funny because I'm quite an emotional person, but it just helped me reframe, oh, okay, that's my tendency. Now, how do I approach it in a different way and kind of soften and try to understand that other people are actually coming to it from a different lens or being, feeling more emotional about something. The next is human design, and this is an assessment that combines principles of astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah, the chakra system, quantum physics, Vedic philosophy. It's like a whole amalgamation that helps segment personality into 5 energy types. And once you understand your kind of your base energy, you realize, like for me, I'm a manifesting generator, which is the one who just like goes out and does things, right? And I get things done. And if I have a vision, like boom, I'm on it. And I have a ton of fire and I have a ton of discipline. And that's been true my whole life. So the human design just helps me say, oh, okay, not everybody is a manifesting generator. So I can't expect everyone to work like I do. So it helps me understand like who I am as a just kind of being moving around. It helps me make decisions that are more compassionate around other people. It helps me also stay on a path that's authentic to me. So again, another tool that could be helpful for you. The last is also just self-assessment, doing some deep journaling, understanding what brings me joy, what brings me energy, what depletes me, what do I love, and really having a practice that helps you go into the concepts around what is it that you gravitate toward? And that helps lead you to, okay, these are the things that motivate me. These are the people that I want to be around. Those of you who are in a career change or really wanted to make a shift, now we have to paint a new picture. Who do you want to be around? What do you love doing? What are the skill sets that you want to carry forward? What is the environment that you want to be in? What lights you up? What doesn't light you up? So these are all questions that we have to ask ourselves. I'm constantly asking myself this throughout my processes of transformation. So deep dive, I'm going to share a little bit more from a healer perspective and from wisdom tradition perspective, that when I work with people individually, often we'll go into to explore more of the inner landscape. We'll go into lineage tracking, into genealogy, researching your namesake, really understanding where your roots are. Even DNA testing helps you really connect to some of the legends and the mythology and the deep history of your family. Childhood reflections, doing deep childhood reflections, past life exploration. Astrology is another one that's been really helpful for me. And then energy work as we start to uncover these different layers. And again, these are all just open resources for you to be aware of, not pushing them on you in any way whatsoever.